What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian. Today I'm going to go over some more of the transfer portal players that Michigan has kind of gotten in the last couple of days now that the transfer portal is closed, and some of them that have left. So right up the top, we're going to start off with the latest one, a guy who actually transferred from Michigan State to over to Michigan. His name is Salisi Moa. He is a cornerback. I believe he is also a linebacker kind of hybrid role. Um, he is actually, sorry, he came over from Utah. My bad. He came over with Coach Whittingham when he came over. He kind of followed him over. So he's the latest one. There are several other ones that have come over since. In between him and the last one, I believe the last one I was tracking was Trey Butkowski, the kicker from Pitt. Um, since then, we have gotten Cameron Brown, a punter, UNLV, a defensive lineman from Utah, Jonah Leal. Sorry, some of these names are a little hard to pronounce, so excuse my mispronunciation. We got J.J. Buchanan, a tight end from Utah. Jamie French Jr., he is a wide receiver from Texas. He is one of the bigger names that has come across. Now, it is interesting in his case because Andrew Marsh is Michigan's go-to guy right now. So it's going to be interesting to see where Jamie French fits in terms of how he relates on the depth chart. Because Andrew Marsh is the guy right now. We lost a couple guys to the draft, like Dalvin McCulley, and a couple guys to transfers, like Fred Moore went to Michigan State. So it's gonna be interesting to see where Jamie French fits into this. He is, 6'1", buck 85, so not the biggest guy, but he's still, you know, he obviously has the ability to stretch the field and all that. So it's gonna be really interesting to see what he does. Um, Next guy is Max Alford, a linebacker from BYU. I would assume that is part of the he came in through the channels because Michigan pulled BYU's defensive coordinator to Michigan. So I'm assuming that that had something to do with that in that case. So those are the newest names on the list. There's a few other ones just to kind of reiterate. Houston Kayahana Torres for Nebraska. Once again, sorry about the names. Inside, he's an interior offensive lineman, a big boy, 6'3", 300 pounds. That'll help get some depth for Michigan. A lot of players who transfer to Michigan may not be starters, but will be important depth pieces, so that'll help. Icy Moa is the gentleman who transferred from Michigan State. Sorry, he actually transferred to play with his brother, Salisi Moa, who came from Utah to Michigan. So I wasn't entirely wrong. He transferred. He is 6'2", 235. He gives Michigan important depth because he has experience playing. I don't know that he was a starter at Michigan State, but you don't need to be a starter to play for a coach who understands, how to develop players. So it'll be good to have depth, and he's only coming right across the state, so he knows Michigan. He obviously understands where he is and all that. So hopefully he doesn't get too much crap from the Michigan fans who love to, crow about little brother and all that business. So there's other than that, a lot of it. There's been some additions like Chris Bracey. He's a safety, came over from Memphis. He is a senior, I believe. So he may only have 1 year of eligibility remaining. And one of the ones that I was kind of curious about is Braylon Fowler Nicolosi. He came over from Colorado State. Um, Michigan has obviously lost many quarterbacks to the transfer portal. I'll go over that in a minute, but outside of Bryce Underwood, there's not much there. So it'd be good to have somebody who has experience behind him. But excuse me, it is interesting to see how they kind of come to this choice because a lot of players have come into from the portal to Michigan, which is good, but at the same time, you kind of wonder, are they hoping something happens or whatever the case may be. So it'll be interesting to see. On that note, some people have decided to stay. I know that Eno Etta, the defensive lineman, he has decided to stay. That was recently, as of yesterday, that was kind of nobody knew what he was going to do, but he decided to stay. To the best of my knowledge, that is final. So Michigan did not lose somebody who had, you know, big boy, 6'5", 320 pounds, and he's got experience. It's good to know that, he stayed. So, unfortunately, Michigan did lose Mikey Keene. He was I believe he was a transfer last year from, I believe, Fresno State, and he had to sit behind Bryce Underwood. He actually is going to Arizona State, which is interesting because I'm not sure he'll be a starter there either. But once again, we wish him all the best. Justice Haynes made it official. He is transferring to Georgia Tech. So that's, in a way, I don't blame him because Georgia Tech is very run heavy and they run the triple option. So he will be a feature back, and considering he probably wants to go to NFL, probably not a bad idea. So we wish him all the best, and I hope, I wish Georgia Tech, they're getting a great player, and I wish them all the best. So good for him. Um, there's a few other ones, but I covered most of them already. We lost Davis Warren, Jaden Davis. So basically, all the guys who were on the team the last 2 years in terms of the quarterback room, besides Bryce Underwood, are gone. So that is, while not a bad thing because they were not perhaps the highest caliber quarterback, they still stayed loyal for that time they were there, and we can all wish them all the best. So yeah, most of the team is gone. I did cover this already, but it is official now that Jake Guarnera and Andrew Sprague, both offensive, one's offensive tackle, one's interior offensive line, both of them have stayed. So once again, that continuity for Michigan that was there when they were there is going to stay with them. So that's excellent. Um, just in general with this portal, I know a lot of people have stated that there needs to be rules and regulations. Too many transfers. One guy's on his seventh school. He's transferred. All this. I actually think I agree with this. Um, there needs to be some kind of regulation on that. Um, there needs to be regulation for NIL. I feel we all know this, but there's constant transferring of students. There's probably 10,000 students in the portal right now, and maybe 40% of them have landed, signed at new schools. So I think the grass is greener on the other side theory kind of applies here. These kids are learning the hard way that the grass is not greener. So hopefully, these guys go find opportunities. I'm all for it. I hope they do. But I think they do need to kind of roll back some of the, kind of claw back some of the ability of players to just enter the portal whenever they want. That is, I think that maybe adding a year or two in between portal transfers or whatever the case may be necessary. And I think it's not just because, moving around isn't good, constantly all that, but if I'm a head coach in the NFL and there's a super talented kid, he comes up, but he's on his fifth school, that kind of speaks a little bit to loyalty, not necessarily to character, because he could be a good kid, never had any problems off the field, just bounce school to school. There is some hesitation there, and if he didn't excel at any of those schools, he might have been good, but he didn't excel. Was it, what other issues were there? Was it a learning problem? Did he have problems? Didn't get along? Like there's other questions that raises. And this does not speak of any individual because some people just know they're not going to the NFL, so they want to experience different things. Perfectly fine. I get it. But I think that that's going to become more and more of a question as time goes on. That falls into, of course, NIL, like I said. They may need to limit like how much either student can make, or if a student signs a contract, he can't just sign it and then 4 days later decide, oh, I'm going to go to whatever, or I'm going to enter a transfer portal. We saw that with Demond Williams, the Washington quarterback. He signed a contract, and 4 days later, he's like, oh, I'm in the portal now. And so the school had to take legal action to bring him back, or they were contemplating it. So he decided to stay, rightfully so. I think that that is something that needs to happen. Otherwise, it's just going to be the wild, wild west, and then legal cases will start popping up like that. So that is something that does need to be regulated. Maybe not so much the amount of money that students are getting, but their obligations to stay at the school for a certain length of time. Like Bryce Underwood staying at Michigan was the right thing to do. Not just because Michigan threw that money at him, but because they said, hey, we gave you this money, we expect you to be here. And of course, Coach Whittingham coming in with a reputation of being a solid guy certainly helped. So he was able to keep him. So that is excellent. Um, and kind of adjacent to that in a way, I've seen I watched this especially with all the bowl games that have previously happened. Players sitting out bowl games, I find to be, while I understand it, I do find it to be less than desirable, especially teams who are like, oh, I'm sitting out to get ready for the draft, or yeah, things like that. I don't think that's right. I really don't. I know players are worried about their health and everything, but if you played 12 games a season, you didn't get hurt, while it is possible you could, that kind of takes away from, if I'm a coach, I'm gonna look at that and say, okay, is he just gave up? Did he give up on a team because he thought maybe he's gonna go to the NFL, or did he give up on a team because he was just done? So there's some questions there, and while my logic is not perfect, I understand this. I will say that it feels like a lot of players give up on their teams because for disingenuous reasons. Going to the NFL is, while a very legitimate in terms of the possibility, because if a player sits out because he thinks he's going to go to the NFL, he probably is, yes. But at some point in time, when does that go from being a reason to an excuse? So I think that is something that needs to be addressed as well. So that being said, we have too many bowls. That's also a thing, but that's a whole different story entirely. Um, Tomorrow is this is being recorded at 3 in the morning on Sunday the 18th. Tomorrow is the January 19th, and it is the national championship game between Indiana and Miami. Um, Kind of go into that real quick. I personally am sincerely hoping that Indiana wins. I think not just because it'll be the first national championship ever, not just because it's kind of a Cinderella story, uh, but honestly, I think most of America is hoping that they win. And that's not to throw shade at the Miami. They earned a right to be there, despite what I feel like the end of the Ole Miss game. Miami still deserves the right, they have absolutely earned the right to be there. And so, I know both teams are gonna come out. They're gonna get everything they got, and rightfully so. And I am certainly hoping that Indiana wins this matchup. And not just hoping, but I believe they will. And I think part of it is the team is one of the older teams. A lot of these guys have been playing football for a while. This is not a team of freshmen. A lot of these guys are seniors. And that has obviously shown with how they have played. And Coach Signetti, I feel, is the better coach than Coach Cristobal. So I think that is going to be, those two things are really going to become very obvious as the game goes on. I think that is going to be this two of the biggest defining factors. A couple of things that may work in Miami's favor, but I don't think so. Uh, are the home crowd. They're playing in essentially Miami's home stadium. So that could be a big deal. But I also don't think that the Miami hasn't been good for so long that I think that their fans are kind of getting over the period of the stagnation that has Miami's had. They're still getting over that. So they may not pack it out. I could be wrong. They may pack the place out. But I also know that Indiana fans have traveled very well this year. So I think that Indiana is going to pack that place out as well. So it could be very interesting to see how the crowd goes one way or the other. And if the crowd is in any way, shape, or form in Indiana's corner, it's going to be a long night for the Hurricanes because Indiana feeds off their fans, especially the last 2 years. They even in down years, they've had some pretty, they have a pretty loyal fan base. So it'll be good to see what happens there. And I think Indiana's fans could really show up and make a difference, even though it is literally in Miami's home. So um, another thing is just that is Miami. And I believe that, well, like I said, their fans have kind of stagnated because the team hasn't seen that much success until this year. I think there's something about the culture of Miami that really is brings them people together. And because it's there specifically, I think that may be something Indiana, while they've played in hostile environments, Ohio State is definitely in a hostile environment. It's still Big Ten territory. You're kind of comfortable in that, winning or losing, you know where you are. I think that is still something that's one of those kind of intangible things that India's going to have to overcome, and I think they can absolutely do it, especially if their fans show up. So that is going to be something that is going to work in Miami's favor, but at the same time, Miami is going to have to get over the fact, that they're playing against a team that has a whole bunch of guys who played a whole lot of football and a coach who is absolutely excellent in virtually everything he does. So both teams should be well rested. Both teams should be healthy. And I really hope it's one of the best games that we have seen in a long time. I really do. So should be a great game. I do think Indiana will win, but they're going to have to get off to a hot start because Miami, defensively wise, is excellent. They have, at least in this playoffs, they have that. That's how they've won their games, just grinding, nasty defensive players. So, however, that being said, this is mostly for Miami. Applies to Indiana, obviously, but emotions have run high for Miami a few times. That has caused some discipline issues. So hopefully both teams can keep their minds right and then get on the field and play a great game. So I do have Indiana winning this game, probably by 2 touchdowns or more, because their offense is that good and their defense is that good. But once again, Miami is an excellent team. They deserve to be there. So hopefully it's a clean game and the refs don't decide to get involved too much, because this earlier today or yesterday now, I watched the Bills play the Broncos, and my goodness, the refs are just awful. But anyways, so that is my prediction for that game. I want it to be good. I want everybody to enjoy it, and hopefully we get an amazing national championship game. So hopefully you all get to watch that as well. And yeah, let's keep an eye on Michigan, see what they do, and this season upcoming. See what these transfers do for Michigan, and hopefully they bring success with them and a desire to play good ball. And this new coaching staff, which is basically revamped entirely, with one or two exceptions. Hopefully they prove to put Michigan back on the map where they were the last couple of years. So, yep. Thanks for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and take care. God bless. Have a good week. Peace.